Well, I'm going to give you the real elite plans, and it's been in the works a long time, actually decades. Major Anatoly Golitsyn, I even referred to it way back in the 70s. He didn't publish his book New Lies for Old until 1984, but the last memoranda to the CIA that was actually in his book was in 1980, and most of it was from the 70s. It talked about the fall of the Berlin Wall, the dissolution of the Soviet Union, glasnost, perestroika, the reunification of Germany, the long-range deception. This is Major Anatoly Golitsyn, defected in 1961. So, there's a plan. There's a plan, and Gorbachev was part of the plan, and they're all working hand in hand. If the New World Order, or let me put it this way, if the United States was actually the entire New World Order, they can easily dissolve the Russian Empire right now, or the Russian Federation, but because it is actually built and made up of so many different ethnic groups that there could be a lot more infighting than you can believe. They're not as unified as you think. And the same goes along with China, because China, even today, you're seeing a lot of tension between the People's Liberation Army and the Communist Party. There's actual rebel factions in the People's Liberation Army. But it is the goal of the New World Order to keep these large countries together and homogeneous, and to bring down the United States into a level playing field while they're bringing up the other side. And they probably even got a war plan for us, for all I know. This was another book that was also written by Major Anatoly Golitsyn in the 90s. He talked about the long-range strategic deception of the Soviet Union by when it fell apart. Its real name to game was to bring about an exchange of technology, because they get a hell of a lot more technology from the West and more economic input and more power by being friends with the West than they ever would by trying to actually formally spy on the West. And you can see that's what happened. Actually, Putin's entire oil empire right now became about because of Western technology. But I'm going to get on to something else, because there's another shrewd game going on here, and nobody sees it. Because the Western media, if they wanted to, they could barrage you every day with nonstop stuff on Putin you couldn't believe. They can go into his gun war in Switzerland and everything else. Talking about Obama, Obama looks like an idiot compared to Putin, but that's part of the game too. Obama's been a diehard communist his whole freaking life. That's what these guys are moving towards. That's why when Gorbachev was, before he even stepped down, they were giving him the keys to the Presidio over in San Francisco. Gorbachev, before he even stepped down, they were giving him the keys to the Presidio over the hills of San Francisco, which was the oldest naval facility in the United States. That was basically just gave it to him. They weren't using it anymore, but it was like buildings and everything. But it was called another foundation at that time, and then when Gorbachev stepped down, it became the Gorbachev USA Foundation, which was basically a globalist think tank about the ecology and environment and everything. Now, Putin's playing another game here too, but he's his own crook unto himself. That's what my suspicion on it. It's not like he's totally in with it. But the other side of it is he's New World Order. He just wants his own version of it. But, the other deal with Putin, though, is that he's been trained to be KGB and a hater of the West. He's been KGB his whole life. This isn't some guy that came off from, normal political life or business life in Russia. This guy who was headed to KGB, he's been trained his entire life that the West is the enemy. And see, that's part of his problem. And that really succinctly is part of the problem. He just made a 2-hour-long speech basically saying that the bear isn't asking anybody for permission. The bear is considered strong and a very traditional animal and will not surrender. He's got a total antagonist approach to the West. Totally. But there's a little bit more going on here than you think. What they're doing in the West, the elite are doing in the West, is they want you to run to this guy and they want you to reject your system. See, while everybody's sitting in their lounge chairs going wham, 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 crying like a little baby, you're being led around by the nose. They can easily put glossy, high-dollar specials about the life of Vladimir Putin, all the suspicious, not even suspicious, the dead-on freaking murders, reporters disappearing, the fire and the explosion in the building that came from the FSB explosives itself. That so they had an excuse to go after the Chechenian rebels, and that started out Putin's career. And this guy's been in power since 2000. Now, if the Western media wanted to tear this guy up, they can, but they don't. They don't really go all over it. They don't really get into it that much. They don't go into his entire background. They don't go into about Gunvor, a trading company in Switzerland that's actually registered in Cyprus. So when he makes money on capital gains on commodities, you don't have to pay taxes. They don't go into all that. They go into it a little bit. But if they wanted to, the Western media, if they wanted to, they can bombard you every day on all the new major news networks about this guy. But they kind of keep it kid gloves. Because what they realize is the strings are like this. Conflict produces change. The whole deal is conflict. And the whole deal is for you to reject the American way. The American way is actually about the Constitution. It's not about sucking up to the people on Wall Street. It's about the Constitution and individual rights. Something this KGB asshole is against. I'm going to tell you that right now. And here's another deal. When Reagan went over to the wall, the Berlin Wall, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall, tear down this wall. That was all staged. Not only did Soviets plan ahead for this, but the freaking guys on the West knew this shit was going to happen too. They knew it. They knew it. And guess who's here in the photo? That actually is Vladimir Putin posing as a tourist way back when. Way back when. They're all buddy with each other. It's like if people believe the Clintons and the Bushes are enemies, they're not really. They're intramural enemies, but they're not enemy enemies. And that's the same way it goes on a global scene. They're not going to freaking break up Russia. They're not going to break up China. What they're going to do is they want to keep these major countries together. So what happens in the long run is that they can all meld them into a new world order, and Putin is all part of it. But this last speech tells me that part of the globalist agenda is World War III. It's not going to happen right away. We got a little ways off, probably. Maybe we got, I don't know how much longer we have off. But, I figure this guy, Putin, is not going to give up power ever. Because, the way it goes in Russia, whoever the next guy is blames it on the guy before him. Khrushchev blamed it on Stalin. It was all Stalin's fault. And then Brezhnev blamed it on Khrushchev. All Khrushchev's fault. Then Gorbachev blamed it on Brezhnev. Then, Putin's got his deal where he's blaming everything on, Gorbachev. He's just sucking up to the West. But, the problem is with Gorbachev and all these guys, every single one of them, they're New World Order. You know why I know this? Because every single political leader in the world can easily be assassinated and make it look like a freaking heart attack, kidney failure, pancreatic cancer, you name it. This has been flat out known. It's not freaking, I knew this from the 80s. The actual line division between chemical and biological warfare has now been blurred. They could have done this back in the 80s and I knew about it. Not that I knew every damn thing on the inside of what was going on, but you're talking about stuff that was going on like 30 years ago practically, that they were able to do this. So any political leader that was a stumbling block to the New World Order would have been assassinated a long time ago, and it would have looked like natural causes. With Putin, here's the joke, whose funeral is this? Haven't decided yet. In some ways, I like this guy, but he ain't on my side. And he ain't doing me no favors. So I gotta tell you, I don't like being second fiddle to nobody. So I ain't gonna bother with this guy. And I'm pro-Western. Yeah, you can figure that out. I'm pro-Western, but the reason I'm pro-Western is I realize this: no matter how screwed up things are over here, we got the tools to fix stuff. Over in Russia, you ain't got the tools. They allow it to look a certain way when they want it to for public relations. But the real power is in the hands of a few, and anytime they want, they can put the screws down any which way there is. Over in the U.S., you got a lot more freaking tools. Problem is, giddy minds on the internet all day. And this guy, he's another thing he does. He plays the religious card left and right. This guy came from the KGB his entire life, was totally anti-Christian. But you know what the real deal is with the Russian Orthodox Church? They've been heavily influenced and infiltrated by the KGB for years. For years. So it's just another tool for freaking keep people in line. That's all it is. You know, people are saying, he's Christian, Putin's Christian, and the West isn't, and it's another stupid thing people are thinking. They're not even thinking at all. They're not thinking at all. But what I see coming up here is another big orchestrated climatic freaking conflict that is going to bring about change, and everybody's being led off the cliff by saying, let's reject the bad system in the West, and Putin is our hero. And that's basically what the game is. The major media in the West can tear this guy up easy. They're not. They put a little bit stuff out in here and there, but they don't do too much. And I got to tell you this guy is a big time actor. You know, anybody, when they see a female cries when she wins an award, they could say the girl was a fake. They'll say, oh, she was just doing that. It's a big freaking act. And a lot of people believe it, but they never believe a male could do that. I say it's a big damn act. They never believe a male could freaking play the same game a female would do when she goes, oh, I'm so happy, and I cry and shit. They can believe it with a female, but they can't believe it with a male. I say this guy's a big act. He does this at the Russian national anthem, too. People say, no, he's a great patriot. Sure he is, right? He's a great patriot for his own rubles in his own pocket, and he uses mainly U.S. dollars. I can tell you that right now. But the game is to dismantle the West and bring about the New World Order. The game is like, when you think the dismantle of the West is like, oh, we're going to be scot-free now, everything's good. Wrong. The United States of America is the only country ever that actually broke away from the freaking powers that be. And you know what's going on? You got a bunch of armchair giddy minds crawling all over the internet, freaking going from one little stupid rumor to another, and doom gloom and all this other bullshit, and they ain't doing nothing to freaking fix the damn problems. Actually fixing the problems is a hell of a lot simpler than you think. A lot simpler. But it's not running after one giddy rumor after the other. But Bushes and Putin and Obama and Clintons and whatever, they've all been working together. Gorbachev, they've all been working together all these years, man. It's not like one team versus the other. And we got another freaking orchestrated bunch of bullshit coming up right now, because I think what's going to happen is there's going to be, we're leading up to major conflict. Now, Putin's going to be in power till 2018, but probably 2024. Probably 2024. All he has to do is win another election. There's no limits on this guy. Actually, he's been in power longer than the czars already. And it's not because he's a nice guy. I'll tell you that. If you think he's a nice guy. Anyway, I just, I mean, people are freaking that dumb. I mean, I don't know what the hell to say. I mean, you think he's a nice guy? Fine. Anybody with that kind of money, they say, oh, that's Western propaganda. These guys got loads of money, man. He's got loads of money. And right now, he's feeling a little bit of a squeeze because of the oil prices. But, there seems to be some type of intramural competition going on. But when I read this Putin guy, he's not going to go down, man. He's not going to go down. Not in a million years. He'll use them nukes before he freaking gets out of power. And, the Western is going to be sitting back in the lounge chair going, woo, woo, woo. Well, you know what's going to happen then? Your internet's going to be off. What am I going to tell you then, right? Too late. Anyway, I do hands-on stuff, and I'm doing a lot of hands-on stuff today. And, working out there on the freaking Jeep and all that other wonderful shit. And, I'm not going to be sitting on my ass freaking, cheering the downfall of the West while freaking thinking Putin's going to save me. But that's just for the giddy minds of the freaking the internet. And this guy has never, ever done anybody any favors. I'll guarantee you that shit. The only way he does you a favor is you do him 2 or 10 favors. He's basically what you got is the classic Russian mafioso, man. Except the Russian mafioso is military and it's the state. The Russian mafia is the state itself. And it's more skewed and more acutely, the way the wealth is more skewed. It's more so than the United States. You got 110 oligarchs and Putin in Russia that own 35% of the wealth. There's no freaking there's no nation on the earth where the wealth is so skewed as in Russia. This guy, and he's the kingpin, man. He's the big guy of the whole damn thing. So, it's amazing how many people get behind this guy, and it's been disinformation all from the beginning. Even the conservatives in America that worship this Ronald Reagan yo-yo, he's a pile of shit too. He's been a pile of shit. You know why? Because his speeches are A+ on what you should be doing, but what he actually does was the same crap they always were doing. He was a big proponent of deficit spending too. They say that was the reason the Soviet Union fell apart, was because the arms race and the low oil prices. That's not the only reason. It was planned. It was planned. They knew it all along. I mean, for crying out loud, ex-KGB Major Golitsyn said it right ahead of time back in the 70s. He was warning the KGB, the other KGB, the U.S. KGB, the CIA about it. So what the hell can I tell you, man? They got you coming and going, man. They're holding the strings all the way. The only thing is, and I don't want to make it sound like it's hopeless, the hope is this. You stick with the true American way, and guess what? You beat them. You got to be independent in every way, shape, and form, and then you beat them. That's how you beat them. It's when they own you, and they got you by the cojones, that's when you freaking forget about it. There's an old expression that we used to have, it was a big freaking, I don't want to say, it was a powerful family up in New York. It used to be, when you got them by the balls, their hearts and minds will follow. That was their business saying. It was actually on a wall up in New Jersey, New York. And, that's the thing. You don't want to be you don't want them to get you by the balls. And that's what freaking, that's what's going to happen to you if you freaking let scumbags like this bastard from the KGB get his way. And that means not just him. I'm not just against him. I'm against all the bullshit that's going on here in the United States where they're encroaching on individual rights. I'm against all those shitheads all the way across. I'm not saying, Putin's a good guy and the West is the bad guy. I'm not saying the West is the good guy and Putin's the bad guy. I'm saying they're all the bad guy, man. You got to go right back to square one. But it looks like the plan is coming up exactly the way they said, because their plan is to freaking have you reject your way of life, dismantle it, say it's time for change. Change is a buzzword of communism. Time for change. Get rid of the freaking stuff that actually everybody fought really hard for and everybody died for. That Obama, freaking apologizes for. He apologizes for, Americans. He apologizes to Europe about Americans and stuff, and all the Americans that are dead and buried over in Europe that saved him from the Nazis and stuff, and he's apologizing. But, it's like you're just going to have to think on your own all the way. Don't worship a KGB thug. The guy's a pile of bullshit. I'm not going to worship Ronald Reagan even. They're all bullshit. They all are. I don't need nobody to be freaking leading me around by the nose, and that's the way it goes. Got to be independent all the way.